Hi, this was going to be video 11. By now, some things probably have already come together for you guys. I said earlier on how politicians are just simply pitchmen. They're just salesmen. And what they're doing is that they get up there in each group, even though they're different in a lot of them, like the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is really what they want to spend your money on. They both want to take your money, but they both just want to spend it on slightly different areas. Or there'll be like some minor differences between the two, but for the most part, they don't really want to, neither one of those groups want to do anything about really fixing the problem. They just have different ideas about where they want to spend your money. Like, for example, the Democrats, they're all for gun control, while a lot of the Republicans are all for enforced morality, like, jurisdiction over the person, hiring more cops to police their neighbor. In fact, both groups, the Democrats, they want to police their neighbor over gun control, and the Republicans, they want to police their neighbor for abortions and drugs and everything else. So you have these two groups that basically both don't really see the big problem. And in Southern America, the job of the government is not to police your neighbor. Remember, if you give the government the authority to police your neighbor, you're giving the government the authority to police you. So that's what's going on, and that's why I say that the politicians are just simply pitchmen. They're just pitching you on the latest idea that they have to spend your money, whether it be socialized health care or whether it be more gun control. In order for them to enforce gun control, they have to hire more cops, which means they have to increase taxes, and they always come up with these things, and they sound great on paper. And of course, if you stand against any of these ideas, then you're labeled as something that you're not. All I'm suggesting is that there's a better way to handle these issues than paying the government to do it, and that's really my point of these videos, is to explain that there's a better way to do this. I'm going to go back into the court stuff just a little bit here. The reason why I'm telling you this court stuff isn't so much trying to educate you on how to handle a court case, even though you probably will get some good ideas, but it gives you an idea on how we're being screwed. This is how we're being screwed. This malum in se and malum prohibitus stuff is actually the #1 thing that's actually being done in this country, because everybody seems to think it's okay for us to pass all these laws to police our neighbors, and it's really screwing us all around with higher taxes, more of a police state, and it's in everybody's business. Remember that if everybody's business is being intruded upon, both the Republicans and the Democrats are having their business being interfered with, and there are hardly small businesses suffering in this country. Well, we still have some small business on the internet, but once they start regulating the internet more and more and more and more over the years, then you can expect to see a huge decline on even small businesses over the internet. So there you have it. Be warned that if you're going to try and teach people or handle a court case or anything like that these people are, I know I've said this several times, but they are filthy corrupt. Like, they'll try to have you committed for raising, if you raise constitutional issues in a court of law, they'll try and have you committed, because you obviously must be crazy if you try and stand up for your rights. They've done this to me, and they've done this to other people. They try to commit people and try and force them onto heavy medications like Thorazine and stuff like, to try and dull their minds and keep them from pursuing justice. One case with me, when I was fighting a possession charge, they locked me down with a murderer that raped and murdered a female college student, got out on parole, and then went out and raped and murdered a male college student, and they locked me down with this guy. This is the guy. He'd already been sentenced. He was getting the gas chamber. This guy was getting the gas chamber. I was locked down with this guy. I was in there on a little possession charge. I'm locked down with this guy, and what they're trying to do there is they were trying to force me to plead out. And I didn't, by the way. I didn't plead out. Or actually, I did, but not for months. Not until that guy was almost gone. They locked me down on with that guy on excessive bond. Here I am there on a possession charge, and they've got me locked out with this 2-time murderer that's going to get the gas chamber. That's the kind of shit that they'll pull on you. So if you think that these guys are going to play fair, and and what I did to rectify the situation is, you can't, if they do try and do that to you, let me give you a little clue. What you do is you send an emergency, I filed a writ of habeas corpus with the federal court, and then once they locked me, once I found out what they were doing, I sent an emergency relief. I can't remember. It was an emergency demand for relief, and that they had me locked down with this 2-time murder to the federal judge. And I was brought to court like the next day, and they basically let me go. They gave me like misdemeanor something. It was nothing something. They basically let me go. It was a pretty serious possession charge they had me on. So they did that to try and force me to plead guilty. The police and the courts will have their friends try and start trouble with you, and then have you arrested for defending yourself. They've done this and so much more to me. So if you're thinking about standing up for freedom in America, I just want to warn you that the criminals that have taken over this country will do anything to stop you. Now, there's so many of us. Now, this is back in the day. This is still back in the 90s and stuff. Now, nowadays, I'm pleased to see that there's so many people that are coming forward, and that it's much harder for them to get away with this kind of stuff, because there's really just too many people. I mean, this is back in the early 90s when I was doing this stuff, and I was basically alone. Now the percentage of people that are pissed off is much greater than it was back in the 90s. Plus now we have ways of getting better organized, and there's just, quite frankly, there's just more and more people that are pissed off now. So they do try and force you to plead out. Be sure that you're, here's some issues that I want to bounce off. I'm just kind of like brainstorm and give you some ideas, so you can just, take some notes on these. If you do happen to get locked down, be sure to bring up the issue that you're a pretrial detainee preparing for court and you're locked down with convicts. Be sure to raise the issue that if you are incarcerated on excessive bond, always ask for a bond reduction hearing, and always try and, get out on OR. Always ask for a bond reduction hearing, even if it's, they want to hold you in jail on excessive bond because they can force you to plead out, and raise that issue. Is that you're just, holding me in jail on excessive bond to try and force me to plead out, and put it, not only verbally in the court, but also raise these issues, petition the court for a bond reduction hearing and all that. You definitely want to do that. Tell them that if you are incarcerated, tell them you need access to a law library to prepare your defense. Now, they're going to say that you have a public defender, and the public defender is what you do. Okay, so the public defender is my access to the law library, so start sending requests to the public defender to file this, and for this legal stuff, and for your discovery, and send all this stuff to the public defender, and when he doesn't provide you with this information, you can fire him for being incompetent. And what, I've done this, and by the way, every time you get a new public defender, each public defender is a little better than the next one, because it does actually affect their records. If they're a public defender and they keep getting fired, it affects their case history. So that's a very powerful way to get a public defender to actually do something with you, because I've had public defenders that just didn't do anything, that did absolutely nothing. I'm sure you have too. So you can fire that. You can fire you do have a right to counsel, and if your counsel is incompetent, you definitely want to raise that issue. So if you have incompetent counsel, you want to file. I'm going to fire this counsel you've given me as being incompetent. I've sent him letters requesting that he provide me with a copy of my discovery. And I haven't heard anything back from him. And keep a time and date and when you did and stuff, and keep it. Okay, I called him or I wrote him on this day. I haven't heard anything back from him for a month. He's obviously incompetent. So you're going to be sure to raise these issues. You can be fired. This is also if you do happen to go to trial and you do lose, you also have an appealable issue. Then your counsel was incompetent. So that's a good one there. Not all of it. Some of you will be able to afford your own attorneys, and if you're in a position where you can afford your own attorney, more power to you. You want a motion for discovery, of course. Discovery, if you don't know, is just simply the evidence that the prosecution has that they're using against you. That can be very powerful because sometimes you'll get the discovery and you'll find out that they really don't have any evidence against you at all. By law, you are allowed to see this. The court relies on the fact that you don't need this, and then they give it to your public defender or whoever your attorney is. If you're poor, they're going to give it to your public defender, and your public defender. Basically, the public defender, in most 99.9% of cases, in the 90s anyway, the public defender's office and the prosecuting attorney's office were pretty much all the same crowd. You know, they play golf together or something. So you might play hell getting it from the public defender, but remember, your public defender can be fired. Now, here's a little thing that I do. After I fired the public defender, then the judge will say, you know, after I had to fire a couple of them, the judge will say, what are you going to do? You're going to represent yourself? And that's pro se. Pro se means in Latin to represent yourself. Actually, you want to handle the case in propria persona. INPROPIA PERSONA. In propria persona, you can Google that. That's in your proper person, which means I don't represent myself. I'm not representing myself. I am myself. If you're representing yourself, that has a specific thing in law. It's not what you think. It doesn't mean that you're fighting a case in trial. It means that you're not you. You're now an agent of the court, and it gives them in personam jurisdiction. It's an in personam jurisdiction. It's give them jurisdiction over you. So you're not representing yourself. You are yourself. And if you fight it in propria persona, you're not waiving in personam jurisdiction. You're not really saying that the court has jurisdiction on you because you are yourself in your true self. So that has to do with that. It has more jurisdiction things. So technically, the court does need to establish jurisdiction for you. And as long as you've raised these issues, you've done your part. Let them know that you know you're going to let them. You know, you can let them know by filing a motion for. Let them know that you're going to take it to trial. Let them file a motion for a speedy trial immediately. Otherwise, they'll just try and wait you out. They'll hold you in jail and never take you to court. And a lot of times you can have this cases dismissed because they really don't want to mess with you. Remember, they're not going to want to ever set precedents on you beating a case on jurisdiction. But if you raise it, it's a very powerful issue to raise. The habeas corpus is send off for a 1983 civil rights form, because you're probably going to need one, because eventually the jail is going to be doing some stuff to you, if not right off the get-go, to stuff that you can file a civil. Invariably, the jails are doing something that violates your civil rights. Some of the issues that I just raised, and some of the other issues that I'll go into in just a second. But you want to write the federal courthouse and send off for a 1983 civil rights form. That's a civil suit, so you can begin filing against the jail. And also, you want to send off for a writ of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus means you have the body. When you file a habeas corpus, what you're basically saying is to the sheriff or to the cops, and it's you have my body. You have to. It's saying to the court, you're challenging their right to hold you, and so now the sheriff has to show cause why you are in jail. And so if you file the habeas corpus and start educating yourself on these laws, the habeas corpus is actually very critical to your success, because the sheriff or the cops usually will have to get the prosecuting attorney to handle the habeas corpus, which actually does cause kind of a little bit of a strain on their relationship, because the sheriff, has to all of a sudden trust the prosecuting attorney that he's not going to lose this suit, because you can sue them with a habeas corpus. They might send in other prisoners to assault you. If you're filing all this stuff, they'll supposedly arrest like one of their buddies, and one of their buddies will be in jail, and they'll assault you. So stay in shape and stay in a group if it's possible. You can add all kinds of human rights violations to the 1983 civil rights suit, like, for example, the pretrial detainee locked up with convicted felons. You need fresh fruits and vegetables. We're not talking about canned fruits and vegetables. We're talking about you need fresh fruits and vegetables to stay healthy. You need sun. Not allowing sun is cruel and unusual punishment. You want to file all this as cruel and unusual punishment. If you're being denied sun, your skin starts dying and stuff. So you should have access to the sun. And a lot of times these jails, they'll try and take away your privileges because you're standing up for your rights. Let the federal, so then if they start taking away privileges, then you can write the federal judge and say, hey, I'm filing this lawsuit and they're retaliating against me for seeking my civil, it's my civil right to file this lawsuit. Now they're retaliating against me by taking away these privileges that we have. So you make a note of everything, and you demand paper and pen so you can prepare your case. Pencil doesn't do, because pencil can be erased, so you want to demand a pen. And if they don't give it to you, you write the federal judge. You tell them, look, I'm trying to prepare for trial here, and these people won't even give me a pen so I can prepare for trial. How am I supposed to prepare for trial? And they'll try and say, well, talk to your attorney. But remember, that attorney can be fired if he's not doing anything for you. That's a key thing there. If it's a public defender that you have. Now, if you've actually paid for an attorney, then hopefully you have a good one that's going to help you with this. But the habeas corpus is definitely critical to you succeeding with this. I already told you about the time requirement, that they have to inform you of the nature and the cause of the accusation. They have so much time to give you information, and you can charge them. You can sue them for not giving you valid information. Most states, it's like every 8 hours, it's like $300 to $500 you can sue them for. So if they haven't given you information and it's been 48 hours, that's like $3,000 you can sue them in small claims court for. Basically, on the civil suit is no valid warrant, complaint, information, or indictment is ever given to me. They gave me a pretend information, but it fails to charge an offense. Again, I'm just brainwashing, throwing a lot of ideas out here to you, so you have some ideas. I've heard other people argue in personam jurisdiction on things like your name is spelled wrong on the information, like it's spelled in all capital letters. Now, that may be a little strange. There's actually some truth to that. In law, capital letters actually do have a different meaning than lowercase letters. In law, there is a difference between that. That's why when I was on that earlier video, remember me talking about how citizens, prior to the 14th Amendment, citizens and persons was always capitalized, and then after the 14th Amendment, it's always in lowercase. That actually does play a difference in law. If something is capitalized, it has a different meaning sometimes than if it was all capitals. If it's in all capitals, it has a different, capital, like on the information, if it's in all capitals. They're really, I think, from what I haven't looked into this argument a whole lot, but it has to do with in personam jurisdiction. It's your corporate name. If I can remember, I never call them, when I'm in front of the judge, I never call them your honor. I call them your judges. Most judges have done absolutely nothing to deserve my respect, so I just call them judges. I do not call them your honor. A lot of people, when they hear me talk about stuff like that, they think that I'm being unpatriotic, but that's exactly the opposite of what I am. And thanks to groups like the Southern Property Law Center and that team of attorneys there, they will accuse me of being unpatriotic, when that's exactly what I am. Unpatriotic to the Constitution, not to a bunch of attorneys that think that they're nobles. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to keep this one a little shorter. I'm about 18 minutes right now. I'm going to keep this a little bit shorter for video 11. Thanks for listening, and I'll come up with 12 later.